Opioids have become the silent killer here in Utah.
Shannon Grondel is here with an in-depth look at the opioid crisis in the Beehive State.
Oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, they seem like harmless painkillers, but they're ruining the lives of families all across the state. Steve is a hard worker, husband, and father, but it's been a long road to get where he is now.
Tons of time away from my family, but years and years of not being present to actually have the memories I wish I had. There's a couple times I thought it was going to cost me my life.
Megan is a student and soon to be married.
It cost me a cousin. A boy I grew up with and played with every day.
It was just a few months ago that her cousin Colin Price died of an overdose. He was only 20 years old. Although Steve and Megan have very different stories, there is one common denominator: opioids.
I was taking, 30 Oxycontin a day when I did rapid detox in July of 2000.
The very pills prescribed to kill the pain cause the worst pain of all.
And one day, all of a sudden, you're like, holy hell, what am I doing? See, I'd already told myself that I'd be okay being a weekend dad. So I was choosing pills for my family.
Having to see his mother watch his body be taken out in a body bag and placed in the back of a truck.
But it's not just Utah battling this opioid crisis. Trump has declared it a national emergency. So what's being done? Here in Utah, many are working to curb the problem. For example, in September, the feds awarded Utah nearly $2 million to combat the crisis. Funds were distributed to these 11 different health centers across the state, including one here in Provo, Mountain Lands Community Health Center. Of those millions of dollars, Provo is only receiving $155,000. Yet recipients say only half of that money will actually be used for direct patient care, leaving them with a mere $80,000. Which begs the question, is that enough money? Todd Bailey, executive director of Mountain Lands Community Health Center, says no.
I don't believe it's adequate funding for the crisis that we see right now.
As the crisis continues to grow, healthcare management feels these critical programs remain underfunded. The lack of awareness and resources is worrisome to many people like Steve.
You don't know that there's an option. How are you ever going to get out? And then if there is an option, and they do offer programs, well, how are you going to pay for it if you're not blessed like I was?
Steve was one of the lucky ones, but for many, escaping addiction isn't a reality. For Steve, it took tons of money.
I was pushing $1 million.
Support.
And I had some pretty good parents.
And courage. The reality is that there are 6 Utahns just like Colin that lose the fight each week to this harrowing addiction.
God just didn't want his son to suffer, so he brought him home.
According to the Utah Department of Health, 6 Utahns die each week of an opioid overdose, and it only takes 1 week to get hooked.
There was a lot going on at the Capitol yesterday. President Trump shrinks 2 national monuments in Utah. Shannon Grondel was at the Capitol. Shannon, this was a very controversial act by the president.
That is exactly right, Michaela. When you go to the Utah Capitol yesterday, you could see that there were many protesters lined up outside, taking to their picket signs while guests inside were taking their seats. President Trump officially announces what many saw coming, a reduction to 2 large Utah national monuments. This act reverses the decision made by Obama and Clinton's administrations. Trump called it
these abuses of the Antiquities Act.
It was right here that Trump signed 2 proclamations, one reducing the size of Escalante National Monument and the other for Bears Ears National Monument. Trump ordered the Bears Ears Monument to be reduced nearly 85%. He also cut the landmass of Grand Stair Escalante in half. Trump made his way to the Utah Capitol to make history. Whether that is good or bad history seems to be the debate.
I don't think it is controversial, actually. I think it's so sensible.
Many that were in attendance praised the decision.
He's rectifying, he's correcting what we think is the hubris of past administrations.
It's a very special day for us Native American.
But outside the Capitol wall stood many other stories.
Whitewashing this country, and that's not what we want.
Bears Ears is basically an effort by the tribes to preserve their ancestors and their spiritual holy land.
Through this proclamation, millions of acres of land are now unlocked from federal protection, but also vulnerable at the hands of industry.
It's important to all of us. There's not a single person on either side of the issue who doesn't value and treasure these singular, sacred, and stunning lands that we have here in the state of Utah.
As Trump said, Utah is full of many beauties, but the biggest division in Utah is what to do with all of that land. Back to you.
Thanks, Shannon.